The technique talk is really to bring the resources available for sponsorship. There's a lot. There's some good literature or items out there for you to check out um, to be a good sponsor. And so that's what this part of the show is going to provide, hopefully. Um, so um, get to where I want to be here. So timeliness, the topic for today was arrived at primarily due to where we sit now. We're getting closer to our fall weekends, and there's some scrambling being done for both sponsors and candidates right now. And sometimes the case, as is sometimes the case, neither knows what is expected. Similar to godparents, or even many parents who are getting their children baptized, do they know what they are signing up for? What are the expectations? What are the responsibilities? This is a chance for people to get fully informed about being a sponsor. And if we can get this right, hopefully it gets us a little assurance for the candidates to successfully make it to the fourth day. So here's where we come up with a little bit of a chicken or egg paradox. Uh, with the beginning, proper beginning, we can make it to the fourth day, and with a proper fourth day, we can assure a proper beginning. While in some ways sponsorship could be seen as a beginning, it's really an essential activity of the fourth day for both the sponsor and the candidate. Good sponsorship helps get assurance that candidates will make it to the fourth, while at the same time, it is an essential part of living the fourth day. Um, Recently, not too long ago, we added friendship to be part of the name of the reunion group. So we now call it Friendship Reunion Group. Make a friend, be a friend, bring your friend to Christ or a better relationship with Christ. Curcio seeks through friendship to achieve the specific purpose of bringing the good news that God in Christ is alive and loves us. In order to improve the effectiveness of the pre-Curcio, which in turn should improve the post-Curcio, sponsors should be informed about the role that they have. Know the candidate as much as possible and pray for them. Pray for direction from the Holy Spirit. Speak with God about the candidate and then speak with the candidate about God. Take responsibility for the perseverance of the candidate until they are fully incorporated into their own Christian community. Provide proper orientation, preparation, supportive services. In other words, accompaniment. So one of the first resources here um, that is listed, sorry, let me get to the next slide, is a talk that was given from Joe a year and a half ago. This is available out on the Central Indiana Curcio website under the school leaders. There's also a link listed on the slide here, and I'm sure we'll make sure to get the link posted underneath the YouTube video for this talk as well. Next up, there are booklets available from National Curcio. If you go out to the Curcio literature on the National website, you'll see the blue and pink books here that were the ones that we used to see a lot of. You can still select them to order them. They're $2 a piece, but what you will get is these flashier and nicer covers that you see here. So encourage you to do that. I'm hoping to get out there real soon to order myself a bunch of these. So next up, out on the national website, there's also a 5-page article on the sponsoring candidates for the Curcio weekend. The link is here on the slide, and we'll also provide it at the bottom of this recording today. And that is it. Now we have the, if there's anything anyone wants to bring up, discuss.
Peter, I just have some thoughts. Thank you for walking through those. I know we have a lot. We have resources available to us. When we think about Curcio, a lot of times for many, it's hey, if it's in the weekend, do you want to sponsor? And there's not been as much formal training, and there's oftentimes a lack of awareness of the resources that are available. And what goes through my mind, I know some people are just really good, like Pat Mayer and others. I'm just curious how, if anybody has any examples they'd want to share of how they've leveraged into these resources so that somebody who's new, they could say, oh yeah, now I've watched this video, I can go pick up this resource and use it. Anybody have any examples that they could share? Everybody's trying to talk at once. I can't hear.
I'll, I'll chime in, and I can't say that I have mastered any of these. Of course, by the last time I sponsored someone, Joe Rice's talk was not on the website, so I didn't use that as a resource. But I think for a long time, the those booklets have been kind of the main vehicle that, at least, I mean, I made my Curcio 23 years ago, and that was pretty much all we had. I think those resources were always on the website, just didn't know they were there until sometime later. But the booklets, I mean, we used to put them in the fourth day packet. I think we still do that. I don't know if we do or not. But and we used to, have a bunch of them at our parish, so it was something that we handed out. But I say that with, I'll qualify that, you just didn't hand it out. We kind of went through that process of um, identifying someone who well, let me take that back, because I don't know of the people that I've sponsored. I couldn't tell you if I gave them a pink book or not, because I think some of it kind of, the sponsorship came out more organically. I mean, we were friends first, and then the pink booklet is something that I would use just to help explain what the 3-day weekend and what the Curcio movement was about. So I think it takes time to really wrap your head around what is Curcio. It's very much a personal experience, and we've all said it before. We all have a different experience on the 3-day weekend, how God has touched us, our encounter with Christ, how that's moved us, and what we've done with that since we've made our Curcio here in our 4th day. And I think that's the beauty of Curcio, and that's something that can certainly be shared. But to kind of give the like the elevator speech of what Curcio is, sometimes it's easier to give the pink book, for better or for worse. Sometimes that's what happens. But I've never given a pink book without talking to someone about what, my experience of Curcio has been. So anyway, I still think those books are a handy little resource to have. It's easy. I know that that's how I found out. That's how I knew what to expect going into my weekend. As I had one of those pink books, and I'll never forget. Paul went on his weekend about 3 weeks before me, so it was the spring of 2003, and he came back, and I started talking about all these things on the weekend. He's like, "How'd you know about that?" I'm like, "Well, because I read the little pink book." That's how I knew. None of it was secret. So I think it is a helpful tool for both sponsors, but I think maybe also for those going into a weekend, because we've had our experience, and we can't necessarily project that on the person that we are sponsoring. We just need to encourage them to go and be open. But that pink book answers some of those questions about, like, what happens on the weekend, kind of schedule, like what does it look like? So that's all.
Now, feedback where you can get these booklets so you can talk to people about Curcio.
Yeah.
Would you ask where can you get them?
Yes.
Hey, Peter, can you share that link that's on the slide?
Absolutely. Yep.
Just put that in the chat. And while Bill, if you'll see this come through in your chat menu in the bottom, I don't know if you can see on your Zoom screen, but next to you'll see a share screen, and then you'll see a chat. When Peter shares it, a little number will probably show up, notification, and then you can just go in there and click on that link, and it'll take you to the website.
Okay. Yeah, I see that. All right.
And William, a lot of times they'll have these if you go to well, at closings, they'll have them at reunions or at Ultreas, they'll have them.
Mhm.
If your parish has a parish rep, then they may have them as well. So they're out there, but that's a great question, because those who don't have any, who haven't been to any of these things, it's like, yeah, where do we find them? But
Yeah.
there's a bunch of them floating around.
How I got involved with Curcio was Pat Mayer was at a prayer meeting that I was with, and he was passing these things around. So I was like, maybe something interested that I may be interested in. And I looked into it. At the time, I recently lost my wife, and they were saying not recommended for people that recently lost their spouse. And I said, that doesn't sound right. And I have a good friend of mine that I've known for several years through Knights of Columbus, and he's gone through Curcio, and he put his name on it. He said, you're going. So it made me feel good that he felt something about it, that I get something out of it. And I did. I got more out of it than I thought I would.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
I can share how I've used these, and this is with my friendship group or union group. We I talked about a few individuals within our parish that we both knew and were friends with, and talked about different ways that we could help encourage them and raise awareness to Curcio. So I actually, during a wrestling match, I forgot my books, and I just shared the link to the website, to the What is Curcio as the very first introduction. And then I brought the individual actually the book afterwards, and he was interested, and actually and then we invited him to group with us. And so he hasn't yet had a chance to attend, but he is still grouping with us. And he read through all of the information, and he's still grouping with us. So I think that's very, very encouraging. And you know that he wants to attend the weekend. He's just got to find the right time. So that's the way that I've used it. I think one of the things too that we're also looking at, one of the challenges from a secretariat perspective is we have a lot of individuals who will attend a weekend, but then they never have an opportunity for their first friendship group reunion, or said in other ways, they never group. And I think there's examples of everything out there, but we've probably all seen situations where people are really targeting the weekend as the goal, or like what Deacon Mike said, the baptism as kind of the event. And then people go out from the Curcio weekend never to participate again. And that's something that we don't have statistics available to us. And Jennifer, I don't know if we do on the regional or national level, but I would imagine they would be very small in terms of the number that actually group more than 3 times following a weekend. But I don't have any statistics. And that's what we're really trying to help our sponsors become more effective at doing. And so one of the questions we even ask during in the pre-Curcio, as we're sponsoring these individuals, we're asking the sponsors, who is this individual going to group with after the weekend, so that we can get them in there and give them an opportunity so that they don't leave the weekend wondering what they're going to do. And then within the secretariat, there are many of us who didn't know where they were going to group after their first weekend. Luckily, we found one. So Jennifer, is there any data or anything like that on the national, regional, national level? I doubt there is, but I'd ask.
No, and I think that's the thing about Curcio. It's hard to, how does one measure success in Curcio when we're talking about people's souls and, bringing people to Christ? We don't punch a ticket for that, but yeah. So I've never seen any data. I've never heard anyone talk about it either. I mean, I think the whole idea. I think the thing that we have to remember too with Curcio as a movement is, when we think about reasons why we invite someone to attend a weekend, oftentimes, and I hear this a lot, and I'm sure that
Well, got me scared, Bill. I don't know how to
I'm, is that we sometimes think that this
You know?
Curcio weekend,
about rain. I
Yeah.
don't
oh,
the wind, but
I just
is
muted.
someone having a
Yep, I helped him out there.
okay. Is it oftentimes candidates, our friends are invited because we think the weekend's going to be good for them. They need a shot in the arm. We want them to know Christ better. So we're kind of fulfilling that, bringing people to Christ piece of our mission, if you will, in our fourth day. But Curcio actually, I mean, is really an evangelical tool. I mean, we don't bring people to Curcio just so that they will be saved. I think that happens in many ways, but it's so that they may go forth. As they say, just like with the Mass, one of I've heard it said or written many times that one of the most important pieces of the Mass outside of the Eucharist is the final blessing. Go forth, and serve the Lord. So, I mean, we're sent forth from this Curcio weekend to go and continue to spread the good news. And whether that brings more people to Curcio or not is irrelevant. What we're trying to accomplish is bringing people to Christ. So sometimes I think we kind of get lost in who we're wanting to sponsor and why. And those things, again, there's no statistics about that. I mean, because a friendship is a very personal thing, and we know our friends better than anyone else. And I do feel that, Curcio is a good shot in the arm for many people. I think, Peter, you put it up there, and I'd never seen that before about, bringing our friend to Christ or bringing them into a better relationship with Christ. I mean, it's all a continuum, but I've not seen that stated that way before. But there's a lot of truth to that because some of us, some are far away from God. They may be sitting in right next to us at church every Sunday, but they may be very far away. So it's about bringing people closer to Christ. So I don't know if I've been very clear, but I'm just kind of trying to illustrate that, we have different reasons for inviting people to a weekend. I think originally it was to make disciples, to get people formed. That's why it is a short course. You give them all the tools, everything they need to go forth and bring others to Christ, rather than just that piece of having a beautiful weekend. And I'm not going to get into 3-day discussions, but sometimes it does become the focus. That's the event, is making the weekend as beautiful and as meaningful and spiritual and deep as possible so that their hearts are moved. But, I think that's where the role of the sponsor is very important, because once that heart's been moved, we then take their hand again and continue to walk with them, and the group reunion and Altrea supports them in that walk with Christ, not just their own personal walk with Christ, but in bringing Christ to others.
I'm going to jump in real quickly, Joe. Many times the men and women I've walked with in sponsorship feel I've tried to basically what you all have done. You've offered opinions and experiences, and that's what life is about, and that's how we view life. But I say the difference between a retreat, a ball game or whatever, and Cursil, those are the retreat and the ball games and experience, but the Cursil is an encounter. And we experience our encounters with Christ in different ways too. That's the real heart of what the Cursil is, that encounter with self, Christ, and other. And that's even harder to explain to people than, oh, that was a great ball game. Didn't you like the score? Something like that. Because we can't keep score. Can't keep score because we can never win, only through Christ. I think one of the things you'll hear once in a while after a Curcio weekend, are you grouping yet? It's like, no, I'm taking some time first before I find my group. And it's like, well, if we started ahead of time and we had the grouping already happening beforehand, then it would be a very easy transition and they go right into it, and instead of drifting away.
Peter, you mentioned the word scrambling. I think you were referring to getting ready for the weekend. Um, Sponsors tend to do that too because, well, I've seen people signed up for the weekend the day before or the day of, and that is just not sponsoring at all. And I can't remember who mentioned this, but it was Michael. Probably one of his better uh, candidates, and he's not even a candidate yet, that he's grouping with him. And one of my best candidates was someone that had grouped with us for 2 years. And then I can think of some failures too. Some of the worst candidates that I sponsored. Um, I saw, I made a friend with them the day before the weekend or the week before the weekend because we were scrambling. So those are some lessons to learn, successes and failures.
I may have a couple of those, Dale, where we're just trying to get people signed up for the weekend.
If numbers mattered, Jesus wouldn't have called just 12 disciples. He would have called the 150 fishes that they caught.
Amen, Joe.
I have to totally agree with that. And just thinking of Jesus' apostles, I mean, they were anything from, people that were shady people to prostitutes to anything in between. I mean, it's amazing how Jesus brought all these people together. And sometimes they crossed that path and went back to their old ways, but Jesus always seemed to somehow bring them back, saying, "Just have your heart into me," which is great. Which I think is always great to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, William, you bring up a really good point because I know that, there was a time, and I'm sure a lot of people here remember this, when the people we sponsored had to be, we were looking for people who were already leaders in the parish, people who were involved, people who could, I don't know, that just seemed to be the criteria that we were looking for. And then with the rediscovery of the writings of Eduardo Bonin, to find out the Cursillo originated for those who were far away, but who had that hunger that you described.
Yeah.
Like they're seeking. They have a good heart. It's not directed towards Christ. And I think we all know people like that. And one does not have to be a perfect Christian in order to attend a Cursillo. I mean, it's just like they say with the Mass. I mean, it's, Jesus came not for he came for those who were sick and needed healing. It's kind of the same premise, if you will, that, this is for those who are far away. And again, to your point, Peter, those who are, wanting to know Christ better, who are seeking, who are hungry. So that kind of widens the door, that I'll call it new thinking, because I know when I made my Cursillo, that was the criteria. You were looking for people who were already leaders in their environment, who were involved in parishes. And granted, they make good leaders for Christ. But I think we missed out on a lot of people who really just who had the potential to be good leaders. So they didn't have to be living a perfect life to come to Cursillo. So that widens the door considerably for those to attend.